The past 24 hours have been an absolute roller coaster ride for the LEGO Star Wars community. If you haven't seen already, yesterday the Smart Brick sets got unveiled at a convention in Las Vegas, and for the most part they look absolutely terrible. Everyone and their mother has their hopes down in the dumps because of these things, and a lot of us thought that the Star Wars LEGO theme was not looking too bright for the foreseeable future. But then out of absolutely nowhere, 15 more sets leaked that are for the later half of this year, that being June and August, and a few in May actually too. And that's why I said the past 24 hours have been a roller coaster ride, because a lot of these sets actually look like they're going to have some great potential. And after seeing these Smart Brick sets that got revealed yesterday, these new ones I'm about to talk about are kind of coming in clutch. But before I do get into them, I do have to say that these are very unorganized. It's really just the identity of the sets. A lot of them don't have piece counts, a lot of them don't have prices, and the ones that do have prices and piece counts are subject to change. And we also don't have specific release dates for all of these either. We just know they're either in May, June, or August. But jumping right into it, the first ones are unfortunately actually more Smart Brick sets that are supposed to release in August. And I know this is kind of ironic because I just claimed all of these sets came in clutch, but I promise out of every set I'm going to talk about on this list, these three right here are the only ones that are actually Smart Brick ones. The rest are normal sets. But the first one is going to be an Ewok attack set for $30. I assume it'll look like that battle pack that came out in like 2012, and it will include a Smart Brick, and it will probably have a speeder that interacts with the tree in some way. Who really cares, to be honest? The next one is going to be a Battle of Hoth Echo Base for $140. And when it comes to the Smart Bricks in this set, I assume it might have a few snow speeders, and the snow speeders might interact with the snow troopers somehow. And then the Hoth Echo Base itself is probably not going to be very big or appealing. And then lastly, out of these three Smart Brick sets, we have another buildable R2-D2. And I mean, I don't even think I have to explain why getting another buildable R2-D2 is kind of ridiculous. But regardless, as much as it is ridiculous, it does kind of make sense. I know not many people, myself included, are a big fan of these Smart Bricks. However, putting them in a buildable astromech droid, or just any buildable droid in general, is probably how these things would work best, because then it would kind of be more of like an action figure that, you know, lights up and makes sounds, and not more of like a Lego set that has minifigures. I don't know, I'm kind of just yapping here, but I do think that for the foreseeable future, the best way Lego could use these Smart Bricks is to put them in buildable characters and not normal sets. But now that we got those out of the way, moving on to the stuff that's actually exciting, the first one is going to be a new Sandcrawler for $200, and it's going to be based off the Mandalorian Season 1, and it's going to include the Mudhorn. And as of now, we do not have a piece count for this set. However, I do have to say, I think it has a lot of potential, especially since it's including the Mudhorn. And as for the size of the build goes, I imagine it'll be about the same size as the 2018 model, which was $140, adjusted for inflation comes out to about $180 in today's money. And then hopefully the Mudhorn itself will feel like it's worth around $20, and that will be why the set is up to a $200 price point in total. But yeah, like I said, I do think this set has a lot of potential. I know a Sandcrawler really isn't on everyone's wanted list right now. However, if LEGO actually does do a good job on it and makes it a big play set with lots of play features and an awesome Mudhorn build, it could end up becoming a fan favorite. The next one though is arguably even more exciting, that being an AT-AT at $180, and this is going to be based off the AT-ATs that were seen in the Mandalorian trailer. I'm not really going to say much about this one just because we've kind of known about this for a while now. Well, I shouldn't say we've 100% known about it, but for a while there has been an unknown set releasing in May with a $180 price tag, and we all kind of just made an educated guess and predicted that it would be an AT-AT based off the Mando movie, and it looks like that is more or less confirmed now. Moving on though, next up we have a very interesting one, that being an Imperial Shuttle for $140. On paper, this one is actually really exciting because of that $140 price tag. It could actually be close to the same size as the 2015 Imperial Shuttle and not downsized like the 2021 model, because that 2015 Imperial Shuttle was $100, adjusted for inflation actually comes out to about $135 in today's money, and if we're lucky, this new one at $140 will be about the same size. However, keyword, I said if we're lucky, because considering the fact of how LEGO handled the turbo tank and the MTT from last year, there is a pretty strong chance that this could just end up being a downsized, overpriced $140 Imperial Shuttle. That's about the same size as the 2021 model. But hey, again, on the contrary, if we're lucky, it could be the same size as the 2015 version. But now moving on to the sets that are actually very exciting, the first one is an Ewok Village for $180, and this set will most likely release in August. I know this might sound kind of crazy, but a price tag of $180 does seem kind of low for a set like this, because obviously the UCS one they made was $250 $60, which adjusted for inflation is probably around $350 nowadays. So again, one being $180 does just seem kind of low. So I'm just going to say this right now, do not get your hopes up and expect that this is going to be the same size as the UCS one, or even close to the same size. I feel like the 2009 indoor bunker set might be a bit of a better one to compare it to, because this actually very well could include the indoor bunker, and then instead of an ATST, it might include the trees with the bridges. The next one though is a bit of a weird one. The list I'm looking at here is calling it Star Wars mini movie posters, and it's going to have a retail price of $50. And from what I'm understanding, it's going to be a brick built version of these three posters right here. So I guess it might actually kind of be like one of those mural type sets. But on paper, this actually does sound really cool because these three posters are awesome. And if they somehow pull this off in Lego form, that would be a really nice display piece. But at the same time, we really don't know anything about it. We don't even know if these are the actual posters it's going to be based off of. That's kind of just the rumor going around right now. But I will go out on a limb and say here that this one does kind of have potential. The next one is another pretty weird one. It's going to be an upscaled Darth Vader minifig for $100. And if you don't know what the upscaled minifigures are, they're literally just a giant brick-built minifigure like you're seeing right here. So I assume this set is literally just going to be a Darth Vader in this style, but for $100. So take that as you please. Moving on though, the next one is going to be a buildable Yoda for $150. And it definitely does kind of suck to see another buildable character just because we get so many of those every year. However, I do have to say I'm not really upset with it being Yoda because the last buildable Yoda we got was back in 2019. And also speaking of that one, it was based off of episode 3, I believe, or at least just a prequel Yoda. So that does make me wonder if this one's going to be based off the original trilogy and looks similar to the one that released back in 2002. Now this next one is very exciting, and it's probably the one that most of you guys have already heard of, and that's going to be a Bounty Hunter Pursuit remake for $60. Yes, after 24 years, we are finally getting this set remade, and I'm pretty much expecting it to be exactly like the original one, just modernized. That one had a retail price of $30, and when you adjust that for inflation, it actually does come out to about $60 today. So with that in mind, I do expect the builds to be roughly the same size. And then as for the minifigures go, I mean, realistically, we're probably just going to get Anakin and Obi-Wan and then Zam Wessel, which is a W, don't get me wrong. I mean, we all want a new Zam Wessel minifigure. However, I am going to add that this would be a great opportunity to include a Dexter minifigure. I mean, I know Lego's not going to do that for a $60 set, but he would fit very well. And even like Jango Fett might also fit well in this set too. But I mean, again, that is kind of going out on a limb. Realistically, it is probably just going to be Zam Wessel, Anakin, and Obi-Wan. But I still think a Dexter would fit very, very well. This next one is a pretty strange one. On the list I'm looking at, it's just called Icons of Star Wars for $80. And your best guess is as good as mine as to what this is going to be. I mean, my best guess is it's going to be something that's going to include like maybe a George Lucas minifigure or even a Dave Filoni minifigure. However, at the same time, it's said to cost $80. So that means there's obviously going to be a fairly large build with this set. So again, your best guess is as good as mine. The next one is going to be a Luke Skywalker's X-Wing Microfighter for $50. So I'm just going to leave that here. Don't really have much to say about that one. But then the next one after that is actually pretty exciting, to me at least. It's going to be a Luke versus Darth Vader Bespin Duel. And as of right now, we do not have a price tag for this set. And the reason I think this is exciting is because one, it's obviously an extremely iconic scene in Star Wars, but also it will technically be the first standalone standard set of this scene because it was made once in 2003 with the Cloud City, it was made in 2018 with the Cloud City, and then they released a kind of standalone version in 2021 or 2020, I think, that was a Comic-Con exclusive, which, you know, doesn't really count as a standard set. So that means that this new one coming out will technically be the first standalone set of the scene, which I just think is really exciting, and depending on how expensive they make it, I do think it has potential. But then moving on to the final set of this list, last but certainly not least, we have a new Anakin's Jedi Starfighter for $30. And again, these prices are subject to change. However, that $30 price point is actually pretty nice to see because for one, it's obviously not going to be $45 like the Ahsoka's one from last year, and then two, the 2018 model adjusted for inflation is about $25. So this new one is probably going to be roughly the same size and not too downscaled with just a $5 tax, which honestly at this cheap of a scale is fine. And just considering how modern and well built Starfighters have been recently, I think this one's going to look really good at a great price point. Anyways though guys, that's going to do it for this video. That is every LEGO Star Wars set that leaked yesterday. Like I said, there is a lot and some of these are very exciting, but with that being said, still keep in mind that a lot of these price points are subject to change. But let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. If you're new, please consider subscribing, and if you want to check out more of my videos, you can see them on the end screen right now.